Life for All presents Daily Food Series, Galatians, the Only Gospel, the Gospel of Christ. Title of Book 2, The Hearing of Faith, by Pedro. Week 4, The Blessing of Abraham. Monday, faith comes by hearing the word of Christ. Read with prayer. Just as Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Galatians chapter 3, verse 6. The theme of this week is the blessing of Abraham. Abraham left his land and his family without knowing where he was going. He did not question, but believed and followed God's command. Abraham received promises from God, and throughout his journey, learned not to rely on his natural strength to achieve them, but to obey the word of the Lord. Likewise, God is pleased when we fulfill his word entirely. Otherwise, we will be disapproved. The blessing is in believing the word with simplicity. Thus, we will be transferred to the heavenly sphere and will not be under the yoke of the law. The Lord will be able to use us as channels to bless all the families of the earth. In the previous weeks, we saw that some Judaizers came to the region of Galatia to influence the brothers and sisters to believe in another gospel, different from the one preached by the Apostle Paul. Those people said that for someone to be saved, it was not enough to believe in Jesus, but was also necessary to be circumcised according to the custom of Moses. In order to inoculate them, Paul wrote the epistle to the Galatians so that they would not deviate from the truth of the gospel. Unfortunately, Judaism, which is based on the law of Moses, has become a dead religion. This fact is highlighted by Stephen's experience, which is described in the 6th chapter of Acts. Stephen was taken to the Sanhedrin, a type of high court that included civil, religious, and political authorities. Some from the so-called synagogue of the freedmen, comprising Cyrenians, Alexandrians, some from Sicilia, and some from Asia, were disputing with him. Still, they could not withstand the wisdom of the Spirit by whom he spoke. Stephen, full of faith and power, did great wonders and signs among the people. Then there arose some from the synagogue of the freedmen, Cyrenians, Alexandrians, and some from Sicilia and Asia, disputing with Stephen. And they were not able to resist the wisdom and the spirit by which he spoke. Then they secretly induced men to say, "We have heard him speak blasphemous words against Moses and God." And they stirred up the people, the elders and the scribes. And they came upon him, seized him, and brought him to the council. They also set up false witnesses who said, "This man does not cease to speak blasphemous words against this holy place and the law. For we have heard him say that this Jesus of Nazareth will destroy this place and will change the customs which Moses delivered to us." And all who sat in the council, looking steadfastly at him, saw his face as the face of an angel. Acts chapter 6, verses 8 through 15. This happened because Stephen was in the realm of faith, while his accusers were in the realm of the law. God's intention in giving the law to the people of Israel was to cause them to follow his word and obey it. However, the people reduced it to a mere set of rules. The leadership, formed by the Sanhedrin, followed this same principle. Once their authority was established, they rejected anything that threatened their power and leadership, including the prophets raised up by God, and even went so far as to kill them. What a deviation. The law that had been given as the word of God to his people ended up being used by authorities to maintain their position, to persecute and kill those who God raised up to speak his living word. Thus, the Jewish religion was formed. Stephen was accused of speaking against the law and the temple. In fact, the Jews did not realize that the law was given to the people of Israel temporarily. The dispensation of the law would be in force until the coming of Christ. From that point on, the dispensation of faith would begin. Unfortunately, even with the coming of Christ, the Jews clung to what had already passed. In his defense, Stephen cites the story of Abraham, who lived in Ur of the Chaldeans, when the God of glory appeared to him. He left that place and moved to Haran and took his nephew Lot with him. And he said, "Brethren and fathers, listen. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he dwelt in Haran, and said to him, 'Get out of your country and from your relatives, and come to a land that I will show you.' Then he came out of the land of the Chaldeans and dwelt in Haran. And from there, when his father was dead, he moved him to this land in which you now dwell. And God gave him no inheritance in it, not even enough to set his foot on. But even when Abraham had no child, he promised to give it to him for a possession, and to his descendants after him." Acts chapter 7, verses 2 through 5. At that time, virtually every nation was pagan and worshipped idols. It was in this degraded environment that God appeared to Abraham. When we read his story, we do not see Abraham questioning God's calling or command to leave his country and go to the land he would show him. Usually, when we move to a new city, we are full of doubts and want to know everything about our destination. However, Abraham had a heart that was prepared. God spoke, and he believed in his word. Without God speaking, there would be nothing to believe in, as we are taught in Romans, where we read, "So then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God." Chapter 10, verse 17. God spoke and Abraham believed. He left his land where he was already established and went to live in Haran. After his father's death, he went to the land of Canaan, which God had promised to give him as an inheritance. Note that Abraham was promised a place without owning even a square meter of land. Later, when he arrived in this land, God promised him numerous descendants without him having any children. However, Abraham believed, and his faith pleased God.